Imagine waking up after working for 30 years, opening your retirement account, and realizing you're hundreds of thousands of dollars behind everyone your age. Not because you were lazy, not because you made reckless bets, but because of one quiet mistake that almost nobody noticed until it was too late. Every year, millions of people check their 401k balance, smile, or panic for a few seconds, then close the app and move on. But hidden behind those numbers is a story that could decide whether retirement becomes freedom or one of the biggest financial disappointments of your life. And what happened to thousands of workers in 2026 exposed a truth that many wish they had discovered decades earlier. It always begins the same way. You're 22 years old, you land your first real job. Someone from human resources hands you a stack of papers and says, "Sign here for your 401k." The words barely register. Retirement sounds like a lifetime away. Rent is due, student loans are waiting, friends are planning vacations. Retirement feels like a problem for your future self. So maybe you contribute a little, maybe you skip it altogether. After all, what's the difference between saving $50 today and next year? It seems harmless. But that tiny decision quietly starts a countdown that almost nobody can hear. For years, nothing dramatic happens. Your account grows slowly. The numbers seem too small to matter. A few $100 becomes a few thousand. Then the market drops. Suddenly everything is red. Panic spreads. Headlines scream that billions have vanished. Co-workers stop contributing because they think investing has become too dangerous. Others cash out completely, believing they can always start again later. It feels logical in the moment, but the real problem was just beginning. Money has a strange personality. It rewards patience and punishes emotion. The people who stayed invested during crashes often hated every minute of it. Watching years of savings disappear on a screen feels like betrayal. Fear whispers that getting out is the safest choice, but history keeps repeating the same lesson. Markets recover, companies rebuild, economies adapt. Those who remained invested usually watch their balances climb higher than before. Yet every crash creates a new generation convinced that this time is different. And that belief has destroyed more retirement dreams than almost anything else. By the time many workers reach their 30s, life begins accelerating. Promotions arrive, salaries increase, marriage enters the picture, children appear, mortgages replace apartment rent, expenses multiply faster than income. Ironically, the years when people finally earn enough to invest are often the exact years when life makes investing feel impossible. Every paycheck already has a destination before it even arrives. Retirement becomes something left over instead of something protected. And nobody could have predicted what came next. In 2026, financial surveys painted a picture that surprised even experienced planners. The average 401k balance looked impressive on paper. Many workers in their 30s had balances approaching or exceeding $100,000. People in their 40s often crossed the $200,000 mark. By their 50s, averages moved well above $400,000. Workers approaching retirement frequently held balances around $500,000 or more. At first glance, it looked like America was winning the retirement race. But averages have a dangerous habit. They tell beautiful stories while hiding painful realities. Imagine 10 people sitting around a table. 9 have $50,000 saved, one has 5 million. Suddenly, the average becomes incredibly high. Everyone appears wealthier than they really are. That's exactly what happens with retirement statistics. A relatively small number of high income workers with enormous portfolios pull the average upward, making ordinary savers believe they're further behind than they actually are. Or worse, convincing others they're doing fine when they're dangerously behind. That's why financial experts often look at the median balance instead. The median shows the person standing right in the middle. No billionaire skews the numbers, no millionaire changes the story, and suddenly the picture becomes much more uncomfortable. Many Americans entering retirement still have balances that are far lower than they expected after decades of work. Some have less than $200,000. Others have almost nothing. Years of missed contributions, job changes, early withdrawals, and market panic quietly erased opportunities they can never fully recover. What happened next shocked everyone. Think about someone named David. David graduated with dreams bigger than his paycheck. At 25, he promised himself he would start investing once he earned more money. At 30, he said he'd begin after buying a house. At 35, daycare costs arrived. At 40, aging parents needed financial help. At 45, college tuition appeared. Every excuse sounded reasonable because every excuse was real. Life wasn't attacking him, life was simply happening. Then one afternoon, David opened his retirement account at age 55. The number staring back at him refused to match 30 years of hard work. He had worked almost every week of his adult life. He had paid taxes. He had received raises. He had done everything society told him to do. Yet retirement suddenly looked frightening instead of exciting. And that realization broke something inside him. But David wasn't alone. Millions of workers discovered that income and wealth are not the same thing. Someone earning $200,000 can retire broke if spending always grows with income. Another person earning $60,000 can quietly build remarkable wealth simply by investing consistently. The paycheck matters, but behavior matters even more. This single decision changed everything. Compound interest sounds boring until you see it in action. Imagine two co-workers. Sarah begins investing at 25 and contributes steadily for 20 years before stopping completely. James waits until 45 and contributes aggressively until retirement. James invests far more money every month. Yet Sarah often finishes with a larger balance because her investments had something James could never buy back: time. Time quietly multiplies money while people sleep. Time turns ordinary contributions into extraordinary wealth. And once time disappears, no amount of ambition can recreate it. Yet this is the one resource almost everyone wastes without realizing its value. The market itself became another emotional battlefield. During strong bull markets, confidence spread everywhere. Friends bragged about huge returns. Social media celebrated overnight success stories. Suddenly, conservative retirement investing looked boring. Some workers borrowed against their retirement accounts. Others concentrated everything into a handful of fashionable technology stocks. Greed replaced discipline. People forgot why retirement accounts existed in the first place. Then reality arrived. Markets corrected. Volatility exploded. Those same concentrated portfolios fell much harder than expected. Some investors lost years of gains within months. Panic returned faster than optimism had arrived. But the real problem was just beginning. One of the most expensive mistakes in retirement investing isn't picking the wrong stock. It's leaving the game entirely. Every major market decline creates two groups of people. One group sells because they cannot handle the uncertainty. The other quietly continues investing every paycheck. Years later, those decisions create dramatically different futures. The market doesn't reward courage immediately. Sometimes it punishes courage first. That's why staying invested feels so difficult. Success often looks like failure before it looks like success. And that's a psychological battle few people prepare for. Another silent threat hides inside job changes. Millions of workers switch employers throughout their careers. Every transition creates paperwork, deadlines, and decisions. Some forget old retirement accounts entirely. Others cash them out to cover temporary expenses. A few assume they'll rebuild later. The money disappears surprisingly fast. Taxes arrive, penalties follow. The account that took years to build vanishes within weeks. It feels like borrowing from yourself. In reality, it's often borrowing from the most valuable version of yourself, the person who hasn't retired yet. What happened next shocked countless families. Many retirees discovered they had underestimated one powerful enemy: not inflation, not taxes, longevity. People are living longer than previous generations. Retirement isn't always 15 years anymore. It can easily last 25 or even 30 years. That means your savings may need to support decades instead of just a few seasons. Suddenly, $500,000 doesn't feel enormous. Every dollar withdrawn today becomes one less dollar growing tomorrow. The math quietly changes while birthdays keep arriving. Then healthcare enters the conversation. Many people spend decades planning vacations during retirement. Far fewer spend decades planning medical expenses. One unexpected diagnosis, one major surgery, years of prescription costs, long term care. These expenses can reshape retirement faster than almost any market crash. And because they often arrive later in life, there isn't enough time left to rebuild savings afterward. This single reality has humbled even disciplined investors. Yet, there is another side to this story. Some workers who appeared average built extraordinary retirement accounts without extraordinary salaries. Their secret wasn't luck, it wasn't perfect timing, it wasn't finding the next billion-dollar company. They simply automated their contributions. Every raise increased their savings rate before increasing their lifestyle. They captured employer matching contributions instead of ignoring free money. They diversified instead of chasing headlines. Most importantly, they remained boring. Financially boring, emotionally boring, consistently boring. Ironically, boring became incredibly profitable. Because retirement wealth usually grows quietly rather than dramatically. There are no fireworks when compound interest works, no applause, no breaking news, just thousands of ordinary decisions repeating year after year until one ordinary worker suddenly becomes financially independent. And almost nobody notices the transformation until it's finished. By 2026, one lesson became impossible to ignore. People obsessed over reaching the average balance for their age. But averages don't pay retirement bills. Your retirement depends on your expenses, your habits, your discipline, and your future, not somebody else's statistics. A teacher with modest spending may retire comfortably on less than an executive who built an expensive lifestyle requiring millions. Comparison creates anxiety. Planning creates confidence. Those are two completely different paths. The biggest surprise wasn't that some people had seven-figure retirement accounts. The biggest surprise was how many believed they had permanently failed when they hadn't. Even workers starting in their 40s still found meaningful opportunities to improve their future. Increasing contributions, reducing unnecessary spending, avoiding emotional investing, capturing employer matches, delaying retirement by only a few years. Small adjustments created outcomes far larger than expected. Because compound growth never completely stops rewarding good decisions, it simply rewards them differently depending on when they begin. Imagine standing in front of two doors. Behind one door is the version of yourself who kept waiting for the perfect moment. Behind the other is the version who accepted imperfect circumstances and started anyway. Neither person knew exactly what markets would do. Neither could predict recessions. Neither controlled inflation. But only one understood that uncertainty is not a reason to stop investing. It's the reason investing exists in the first place. Years from now, nobody will remember what the average 401k balance was in 2026. They won't remember which age group had the highest median. Those numbers will fade into history. But they will remember the habits that shaped their own future. Because retirement isn't built by one giant decision, it's built by thousands of invisible ones. Every paycheck asks the same quiet question: Will today's comfort steal from tomorrow's freedom? Every market crash asks another. Will fear control your future? Every raise asks one more. Will your savings grow faster than your lifestyle? Most people never hear those questions. They only notice the answers decades later. The greatest tragedy isn't reaching retirement with less money than someone else. It's reaching retirement and realizing you had far more opportunities than you ever believed. Opportunity rarely announces itself. It disguises itself as an ordinary Tuesday paycheck, as another automatic contribution, as another month of patience while everyone else panics, as another year of refusing to quit. The wealthiest retirement stories rarely begin with extraordinary income. They begin with ordinary people making extraordinary decisions over and over again when nobody was watching. And perhaps that's the most powerful lesson of all. Your future isn't hiding inside the average 401k balance for your age. It's hiding inside the next financial decision you make. Because the numbers on your screen don't predict your future, your habits do. And those habits are being written, one paycheck at a time.